Bulk fill composites, believe the hype. Coming up next on Dental Economics Buyer's Guide. And cue animation that dazzles. All right, I'll do version 2. Bulk fill composites, believe the hype. Coming up next on the Product Navigator Buyer's Guide. Cue animation here. Okay, we got that in the bag. So next, the animation ends, and now you and I are going to start our conversation.
Okay.
What is the deal with bulk fill composites? Why are we seeing so much of it in the marketplace? What does it even mean to be a bulk fill composite? Maybe some of you have tried one and had a great experience, maybe not such a great experience. Let's get to the bottom of it. I'm here with our product expert, Dr. Howard Blazer. How you doing, Howard?
I'm doing great, Chris. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for being here again. So let's just start off. What is your definition of a bulk fill composite? Because it seems that term is popping up everywhere, and maybe it's not always being used correctly. What do you think?
Well, I think the way I would define a bulk fill is anything that has the ability to be placed in a bulk quantity of 4 to 5 millimeters deep and then photo cured without running the risk of it being able to be cured all the way to its full depth.
Fantastic. So we're escaping that traditional 2 millimeter increments of placement. So this is allowing us to be faster. That would be the main benefit of switching to a bulk fill composite is speed with your operative dentistry, right?
I think you're 100% correct. It's speed. We all grew up in the early stages of composites, and true to today, of layering 1 to 1.5 to 2 millimeters in depth and stepping it as we go. This allows you to go squirt and shoot, and you've got a depth, it's filled, zap it with the curing light, and let's move on.
So your favorite times to use a bulk fill composite, and then what are the times you actually wouldn't recommend using most bulk fill composites?
So I think my favorite time would be in pediatric use when I have something that's 3 to 4 millimeters in depth and you're working with a 3 foot nothing little moving target and you'd like to get in and out. I think this is an ideal situation in a class 1 or a class 2 where you can go in there. Perhaps aesthetics are not the primary concern when treating a pediatric patient. I certainly wouldn't use this in an anterior in an adult or a pediatric patient. I like more control, but that's me. Certainly this is great to be used for adult dentition as well. We're almost the same situation. You have a 3 to 4 millimeter class 1 or a 5 millimeter class 1. Let's go in, we shoot in a bulk fill, 4 millimeters deep, zap it with the curing light, put a layer of more aesthetic composite over it to finish it, and zap it with the curing light. What are we talking, a minute, 2 minutes?
So it sounds like one of the negative features of some bulk fill composites out there, or maybe many, is their aesthetic properties. What is it about it that that can leave a little bit to be desired? And realizing we're talking about a very broad product category.
Absolutely, and I think in my mind, from an aesthetic standpoint, they're not as aesthetic. They tend to be more opaque, a little bit more chalky in appearance. That said, if you're using them in the posterior, other than another dentist, does anybody really ever see them? In a young child, yes, they have a broader smile perhaps, and they open their mouth a lot, and maybe you'd see it. But there again, I don't think aesthetics is of high concern. So for me, I like using a bulk fill and have used them successfully in both adult and pediatric dentition. However, I tend to finish them with something so that at least I'm aesthetically satisfied.
Fantastic. So let's get into the buyer's guide portion. Can you run through some of the key features you look for when you're looking to invest in a new bulk fill composite?
Well, I mentioned and touched on one of them. I'd like to see less opacity. The only time I like to see the opacity be a factor is when you're trying to cover amalgam stain, if you're trying to get sclerotic dentin covered up and masked so you don't have that gray tinge when you look at the tooth that we've all seen.
On that point, you would have the opportunity to put like an opaquing layer down first too, if you have more translucent.
Some of the bulk fills can be used in that fashion, so right from the get-go. So maybe I'd use a more opaque one there, and then that would mask it out, and then on top of it, I'd use a conventional composite. So that's one. I'd like to, in terms of other characteristics, you need to know the depth of cure. You need to know if they say it's rated for 4 millimeters, it's probably actually rated for greater than that, but that's where it has to accomplish, I believe, about 85% of its cure. So that's pretty good. And just a quick sidebar, and it's something for a future navigator, is to talk about curing lights and the power of the curing light and being able to photo cure to 4 or 5 millimeters. Not every 1,000 milliwatt per centimeter square light out there, which is the most common denominator light, can do that. And you got to buyer beware on that one. So that's one. Then you want to look at curing time. Depending on the shade you use, we used to use the rule of A3 and under was 20 seconds, and A3 and darker was 40 seconds. I find that even if they're rated at 20 with a bulk fill, I'm probably going 40 seconds. And that's just maybe me with a belt and suspender attitude. So, what's good for that is it's even better. I like the concept if it allows for it when using a bulk fill to cure buccal and lingually. And that, goes back to the old techniques we learned years ago of worrying about the composite shrinking from the light. So here I have buccal and lingual photo cure. I like doing that. I think that, again, maybe it's more peace of mind in my years of experience. The other big thing, not only are bulk fills coming of fashion, but the use of heat to soften or make our bulk fills more creamy or flowable, if you will. So I'd look for that as a characteristic. What's the capability of using the bulk fill with heat? Certainly, we have to deal with shades. I've said in generalities, they may be more chalky or opaque, but those are the early ones. Now we're seeing the whole gamut, the fantastic five, as I call them, A1, A2, A3, 3.5, and B1, I want to look at wear characteristic of a bulk fill. If you are going to use it to full height, and that may mean 4 millimeters and then adding maybe another 2 of the bulk fill, if you want to stick with the bulk fill itself, then what's the wear factor on that? What's it going to look like 12, 18, 24, 36 months down? Are we going to get ditching in it? So I want to know about that. Of course, the most perfect restoration is the shiniest restoration. So I want to know about polishability. I want to look to see how well it polishes, how easy it is to polish, how it holds its polish over that same time frame minimally. Okay. Cavity adaptation. To that, I mean, when you syringe it into the cavity prep, is it so rigid that it doesn't flow to the walls of the cavity prep? Or do you have to compress it more than the average composite? Or is it so runny that can you really control it? I like the ability to, as you near the occlusal portion, be able to sculpt it to some degree.
Just like regular composites, bulk fills can run in a whole gamut of textures and consistency.
100%. And each of us, that's why there's so many in the market. You may like A, I may like B, and somebody else likes C. Apropos of that too, we want to know the stickiness factor, if you will. Now, granted, there are plenty of instruments on the market that claim, and plenty of materials on the market, I should say, that claim they're less sticky or don't stick to instruments. We know that's a lot of hogwash for some of them. There are several that we can talk about in a future navigator and how to pick a composite instrument. And probably the last two are the thing we worry about most when it comes to bulk fills as well as conventional composite placement, and that's marginal integrity and contact integrity. Does it withstand the test of time, or are we going to see marginal breakdown, or is that beautiful contact we created not going to be there when they come in for their hygiene appointment 6 months down the line?
Fantastic. Well, now we are experts on bulk fill technology. Thank you, Dr. Howard Glazer.
My pleasure, Chris.